2, 1. Boom. Hello and welcome to an exclusive next level webinar, Fore's 4 Pillars for a Successful Life. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, and today we are joined by my co-host, Austin Linney, and we will be entering the mind of Matt Fore, who is also known as the host of Ice Cream with Investors podcast. I've had the pleasure of being on that show. Guys, definitely, we'll do a quick plug here. Go ahead. Matt, what's the best way they can find your podcast? Google it. Is there a landing page? Let us know. Anywhere you find podcasts starting March 1st. Okay. Oh, so here we go. We're ahead of the curve, guys. So you heard it here first. Ahead of the curve. I want to give a big thank you to our sponsor today. That's Liberty Real Estate Fund, the world's first single tenant net lease security token. For more information on Liberty Fund, you can visit libertyfund.io. That's libertyfund.io. And again, I want to give a big thank you to our production team, which is, again, myself, Austin, our buddy Aaron Eiler here, who is doing all major things next level behind the scenes. Aaron, thank you for all the hard work you put in to make today happen. And just want to give a quick, again, hello to all of those who are with us here live. Thank you so much for investing your most valuable resource with us, your time. Let's go ahead and get that chat box warmed up. I saw a few comments coming through already, but let's have some fun with it. You know, punch in who you are, where you're tuned in from, maybe what brought you here today. And hey, we were talking about ice cream there, Matt. So why doesn't everyone go ahead and put in their favorite ice cream flavor in the chat? Aaron and Austin, don't be shy as well. And don't worry, I'm gonna give you guys some microphone time here in a second. Just breaking all the proper ice in order. If you're joining us on the replay, be sure to like, share, and subscribe there. And check out the show notes for links connected to today's message. And if you're listening on the Dream Chasers platform, be sure to drop us a 5-star rating and follow a link to the video replay. All right, so here we go. Fore's 4 pillars for a successful life. Before we dive in, you know, I mentioned this co-host many times, built up a lot of hype now, so the audience has to know. Austin Linney, first of all, what brought you here today as the co-host?
You did.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
No, I love this topic. You know, we have a podcast about this topic, and then I have another podcast. See, I got another one we're releasing in March too, all about the psychology of success, which I believe is a foundational work to understand, you know, how somebody does it, and then more importantly, how they define it for themselves. And so that's why we're here today.
Yeah. And you know what, because we were talking a little bit before we pressed record too, Matt, going to flip it back over to you mainly for replay purposes now. Kind of run us through just briefly, you know, your mind right now. I'm sure this is, as we kind of said, you know, a big moment for you. So excited to have you here and just want to know what's running through the mind of Mr. Fore.
Ice cream. You got me thinking ice cream now. I'm going to do a shameless plug for my father. And I've never told anybody what my favorite ice cream is. No one's ever asked me on my show. I ask everybody what their favorite ice cream is. His was mint chocolate chip. And do you know why it was mint chocolate chip? He told me he told me growing up, he's like, no one likes mint chocolate chip. So you always want to get mint chocolate chip because no one will ever ask you to taste their ice cream. So mint chocolate chip, a man after my own heart. And that's where I got my ice cream bug from.
Well, thank you, Father Fore. And I have to agree. I think when I was on your show, I didn't necessarily, I just remember I didn't give you a favorite flavor, but I happen to be eating like a Reese's kind. Mint chocolate chip, you ask anyone that knows me, that is actually definitely in my top 3. So
you were the first person and only person so far to be eating ice cream on the show, which I thought I'm a little jealous of.
Well, you haven't had Austin on the show yet, so don't challenge him. All right, so
Austin,
here we go, guys.
Austin, wait. Austin, what's your favorite ice cream?
I actually don't have a sweet tooth at all, but I will tell you this. I am from Texas, and when you're in Texas, you go to Dairy Queen, and you get a Blizzard, and then you get it with the Reese's Pieces cup and some M&Ms in there, and you go to town on it. That's what you do. When I do have dessert, that's what I like.
I know someone on this right now that will probably appreciate the Reese's cup reference there.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah.
Love it. Cool. Well, all right, guys, again, going to get a ton of value today. Please, if you haven't already, grab your notepads or, you know, pull up your Google Docs or WordPad, whatever you're using to take notes, and just get ready, you know, exit out of any other distractions if possible as we make our way through this webinar. And, you know, time for a little context, time for a little backstory before we get into the main presentation. Matt, I would love for you to kind of fill in the blanks here too. But I remember I can't remember. I think I hopped into our buddy Ellis Hammond, who was doing a webinar on podcasting, and you were getting ready to produce your show, and somehow we crossed paths and we started talking, and you mentioned to me doing this was one of your major goals, and I don't know, we instantly clicked, and nothing but positive vibes. Not to sound corny, it was a good connection. So that's kind of, I feel like, how we got here today. Is there anything that I'm missing?
Yeah, no, I think for anybody listening, we live in this virtual world right now where I know you and I have chatted about this. In multifamily, it's a team sport, right? And you need people on your team. And it always feels a little weird when you're reaching out to a stranger. And as I got to know you, a stranger that lives in a different country as well. But I mean, you never know what can happen. One thing leads to another. We've spent a lot of time together, and now we're on this podcast together. So it's been fun to get to know you.
Definitely. Yeah, looking forward to it. And so, guys, Matt Fore is a part-time real estate investor based out of Nashville, Tennessee. In his professional life, he has spent over a decade in sales and sales leadership positions at one of the largest tech companies in the world. In his free time, he trains for Ironman triathlon and teaches others how to build and grow their financial wealth, which is really the main pull here today, I would say. And again, Matt, you have pretty unique story, unique background coming into this as well. So I guess that's, if you didn't already have this a part of the presentation, definitely lead us into this with your story, and then break into the main slides or and the rest of what you have. And
Yeah.
actually, real quick too, sorry, I almost forgot. Just want to let you guys know, if you have any questions along the way, please fill up that Q&A box. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end. And if you're with us on Facebook, the comments section is wide open. So please, any feedback along the way is appreciated. Get those Zoom emojis clapping and ready, and give it up for Matt Fore.
Zoom emojis and clappies, huh? Can you, first of all, can you see my screen?
Yes, you are coming through clear.
Awesome. So thanks everyone for joining, especially if you're a friend of mine. Thank you for joining. I would like to start off by saying my main goal, I have one goal here, and that is to help one person, either listening today or listening on a replay, just move forward. And if it's moving forward from a professional standpoint, if it's moving forward from a financial standpoint, a personal standpoint, that's my goal, right? So I hope to speak to the one individual out there that maybe had a struggling 2020, is trying to progress into 2021, maybe had a phenomenal 2020 and is looking to continue that success into 2021. That is my goal. My ask, because I'm in sales, anytime I present, I always have an ask, is if any of this resonates with you, I want to hear from you. I love talking to people and connecting with people. My main goal is to help people see and achieve their highest potential. And so if I can add any value to you, please feel free to reach out. We'll drop notes and ways to reach out to me, I'm sure in the show notes or however Adam does this. But please reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. You cannot find me on Instagram or TikTok or any of those. So LinkedIn is probably the best way, but I just wanted to start off there. So first off, the title of this is Four Pillars of a Successful Life. And if you didn't catch the joke, my name is Matt Fore. So that is the only pun you will get. And if you don't find that funny, it doesn't get any better from here. All right. So who am I? I grew up in a small rural town in Appalachia. And as you can see there from our sign, it's a good place to live. It was a town of about 20,000 people. It's a town where everybody knew everybody, but it was also a town that really showed me that globalization has passed a lot of this world over. It was a town that 50% of the people were under the poverty line. Growing up, it was quite frequent for me to know someone or know someone's family member who had been thrown in jail for drugs, missing alimony, and all that kind of stuff. But I did win the parent lottery. I was born into a family that loved me, had my best interests at heart. You can see my twin brother up there. And as you can see, he is both smarter and better looking than me. But as you can also see, my mother loves me more. I say that jokingly, but my brother is the smartest person I ever have met in my life. He's 34. He's already been a part of 3 Supreme Court cases. He graduated from the University of Michigan Law School, gave his commencement speech at University of Michigan Law School. And the reason why I bring that up is because that was very difficult for me. I grew up dyslexic in a town that I just mentioned, and it was always difficult growing up with someone like that in your environment. While Wyatt was giving his commencement speech, I was playing with numbers in my head because I always had trouble with the written word. In my professional career, I've spent over a decade in sales and sales leadership roles at one of the largest tech companies in the world. And when I tell people that, this is what they think I do. But if you ask me to fix your printer, it's probably going to look more like this. In my personal life, as Adam mentioned, I'm an Ironman triathlete. That is the one you see on TV. It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, 26.2 mile run. That is 140.6 miles. And I told you I was better with numbers than I was with words. One of the things I love about Ironman, though, is it teaches you grit, teaches you humility. It teaches you what's physically possible. The gentleman there on the left, his name is Chris Nicky. In 2020, he was the first person with Down syndrome to complete the race. The guy in the middle there is John Blaze. He's the first and only person with ALS to complete the race. And the guy on the right there is Rajik Sewell, who is one of many double amputees to finish the race. But why his story is impressive is because he was homeless the year before he finished the race. Ironman is a sport that continually shows me that the word impossible should be removed from the dictionary. Earlier, I told you about my brother, my twin brother. I felt it was necessary to end with my sister, Whitney. This is a picture of her dressed up for Tim Tebow's Night to Shine ball. And it's one of the last pictures we actually have of her alive. Whitney was born with Down syndrome, and Whitney loved to participate in Special Olympics and had an unbelievable memory. One time we were going to her favorite place, Starbucks, to get her favorite drink, which is a grande decaf black with 3 packets of equal. And she told me that we needed to make a left turn. I adamantly disagreed with her because I had a GPS that said otherwise. And we were at a stop sign. So I pulled out my phone and she was right. That story probably doesn't mean much to you all, but then I'll tell you that she had only been there once. And so Whitney passed away in March 20th of 2018. And it was really tragic for us all in the family. But she taught me really a lot of things. And 3 things that really stick out to me is she taught me to always be happy. She taught me people matter more than things. And ironically enough, given my profession, she taught me that humans are still smarter than technology. Every time I wake up and think about the difficulties in my life, I remember and I'm grateful to have her as a part of mine. And I heard this quote today on Impact Theory, the podcast Impact Theory, that if we take pain and view it in the right lens, it can help motivate us. And she's reminding me that I want to pursue the things that make me happy and give me joy in life, which today is speaking to you fine people. So I'm going to switch gears on you in life, and I'm going to talk a little bit about principles versus tactics. You see, I think every day we come to a fork in the road where a decision needs to be made. And maybe your fork in the road doesn't look like this, but I can guarantee you it doesn't look like this. We think that decisions are binary. There's a right and a left, a 1 and a 2, a yes and a no. But I don't think it's that easy. I think that today's world is interconnected, and one decision is going to lead you down a path to make other decisions. And before you know it, you might wake up down this road and you're not aligned with your belief system. And chances are your decisions are going to look like a bunch of small decisions that lead you along the path that you want to go. So I want to start by introducing this concept of principles versus tactics. I'm sure most of you have heard this analogy before, that 90% of an iceberg is actually underwater. And I want you to view the tactics as the top of the iceberg, that 10%, and the principles as the grounding beliefs underneath the iceberg. Let's take a look at an example. One of my core principles is to meet people where they are. This could mean physically, this could mean emotionally, this could mean intellectually, this could mean a number of different things, but you'll never influence people by shouting your opinion at them. You have to meet people where they are. So let's say, for instance, that you're a head of the marketing department. Your goal should be to attract customers. The best way to attract customers is to meet them where they are. A tactic for that might be something like TikTok. However, if we started with TikTok, that would be a poor decision Because while we might see some short-term success, what are you going to do about your customers that aren't on TikTok? What are you going to do if it gets replaced with something new like Clubhouse? What are you going to do if one day it's banned from America, the next day it can be in America, but it's got to be sold, and the next day it can run completely as it has been for the past year or so? Starting with principles allows us to be dynamic and shift as the wind blows and things change in our ever dynamic world. So ultimately, we have to be rooted in principles to achieve our goals, and then layer on tactics for how we achieve that plan. So principles are values and belief systems, and tactics are the strategies we use to live out those values and belief systems. So I'm assuming I'm talking to a financial crowd here. Let's look at a financial example. When we look at finance, there's these two competing thoughts out there. There's accumulation versus distribution. Many people in the financial industry talk about something ROR. They talk about rate of return. They are only focused on the accumulation side. One of my core principles in finance is that I want cash flowing assets that will appreciate over time and distribute income in a tax advantaged way. So to be clear, you can absolutely win by using tactics. However, what I want to overemphasize is that you're most likely to repeat your successes if they're grounded in principles rather than tactics. So I know what you're thinking. I thought you were going to teach me about principles and your 4 principles. It is that time. My 4 principles to living a successful life are clarity, consistency, efficiency, and compounding. Clarity, consistency, efficiency, and compounding. So we'll start with clarity because I think it is the most important thing. So we'll start it from the beginning there. I heard this quote this morning: a genius without a map will get lost. An idiot with a map will end up at their direction. If you don't know where you're going, any road's going to get you there. So it's very, very important that we get super clear on what's important in our life. Super important in what's important in our life. Since again, I'm going to use this from a financial standpoint, I'll give you a financial context. To me, money is a tool. Like this quote says, money is a tool that gives us a choice. I believe that we should use our money to live a more intentional life, whether that's donating to causes we care about, spending more time with our friends and family, or whatever passion you have in your life. It will require money, and we should use it as a tool to pursue those things. So let me give you another example. What if I came to you with an investment idea? What if I said that I had an investment that could make you 50% a year on your money? That would probably sound like a pretty good idea, right? But what if I told you there was a caveat? The caveat is that you would work an extra 50 hours on top of your 40-hour-a-week job, and there's a high probability that you could lose it all in an instant. All of a sudden, that doesn't sound so good, right? That's the problem with the way we look at money and the way we make our decisions in life. We look at the end result and fail to ask, does this align with what I value? I try to preach to anybody that'll listen to me, you have to know what you want in this world, or the world will decide it for you. And if you let the world decide it for you, the next thing you know, you'll be in the basement looking for your stolen stapler. I love this movie. So what does that mean? You have to be honest with yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself and get super clear on what you want from your life and how you're going to live your life. The best way to do that is to ask yourself questions like, what if I woke up tomorrow morning and had $10 million in my bank account? What if it was 100 million? I would beg to say that most of you out there listening to this kind of content wouldn't go waste it all on a weekend in Vegas. But I would also bet to say that you would make different decisions with how you spend your time. What would you do with the money? What would you do with the time? What causes would you be involved in? What activities would you do each day? In the end, being clear on your goals and direction in life means saying no to the wrong things. And most importantly, it means knowing what to say no to. All right. So we've gone through clarity. Now it's the next principle of consistency. I believe the person you are 10 years from now is directly correlated to the things that you consistently do each day. I say that, but with this phase, I want you to give yourself some grace. At this point, consistency is more about that we do something. It's not that we do the right thing. And there's a saying out there that says, get going and then get good. This is the get going phase. As long as it's in alignment with your goals in the clarity phase, it's okay not to be perfect as long as it's getting you towards that path. So I'm gonna use a basketball analogy on here because our boy Adam is a basketball player and national champion.
And Kobe's awesome.
And Kobe's awesome. I'm not even a basketball fan really, but I can appreciate greatness, right? We can all agree that Kobe Bryant was one of the best basketball players to ever play the game. 30,000 points, 18-time All-Star, 15-time first team All-NBA, and most importantly, 5-time NBA champion. Kobe Bryant started his career in 1996, straight out of high school. He was a man with just raw, natural talent, right? But what made Kobe successful and what made Kobe great was his consistency. I believe that this picture defines Kobe's career, and it's not his terrible fashion choices. It's that Kobe, a right-handed shooting guard, is in the gym with a broken right hand, playing with his left, getting better with his left. A man that said, I'm going to get my reps in regardless of the circumstances. And here's the point. Consistency will always beat talent over the long run. Let's compare that with another NBA great, Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was just as talented as Kobe Bryant. In 1996, Kobe Bryant was drafted 16th. The number one pick that year was Allen Iverson. Coming out of high school, Newport News, I'm from Virginia, Newport News grad, he was given a scholarship to play football and to play basketball. He just had raw, natural talent. I told you some key stats about Kobe: 30,000 points, 18-time All-Star, 15-time NBA first team. Allen Iverson played 7 less seasons than Kobe and still had 24,000 points, 11-time All-Star, 7-time first team All-NBA. But when we think about Allen Iverson, he never won a championship. You know why? Practice. We talk about practice, not a game, practice. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Allen Iverson had this press conference the year after losing to Kobe's Lakers in the final. And when he was asked by a reporter why he wasn't showing up on practice on time, he went on this infamous tangent, basically saying that practice wasn't important. He was the superstar. He was there to play in the games, but he wasn't there to practice. I'm not trying to disrespect Allen Iverson's talent, but his willingness to put in consistent actions over the long term made him unsuccessful at achieving his goal, which was winning an NBA title. So what does this mean? This is one of the pictures on my vision board. It's a library in Amsterdam. And I told you earlier, I was dyslexic. I will always struggle with the written word, but it's something that I never wanted to hold me back. So every day, regardless of the day, I read at least 5 pages a day. And I get made fun of a lot. You can see the blurry in the background. Those are all my books. I've got hundreds of books. I never throw away a book because it's a little miniature trophy to me. I'm trying to make a point that your action doesn't have to be some grand action. If your goal is to save more money, put $1 into your savings account every day. If your goal is to buy real estate, then evaluate a property every day. If your goal is to grow your network, reach out to one person every day. The key point is that you have to do something every day without exception. And what you'll find is it'll put your goals up top of your mind in your clarity phase, but it'll also give you the self-confidence to continue down your journey when times get tough. All right, so we're clear on our goals. We started taking consistent actions. Now it's time to be efficient. Efficiency, I said in consistency, it was about doing something, not the right thing. Efficiency is about doing the right thing. So remember that saying, get going and then get good. This is your get good phase. So I'm trying another analogy, another sports analogy. My name, Matt Fore, lends me to be a terrible golfer for the rest of my life. So I'm going to use a golfing analogy. If I asked you, would you rather have Tiger Woods clubs or his swing? I hope most of you would say his swing. It's smooth, it's powerful, it's efficient. I would beg to say that Tiger Woods could go buy a set of clubs from Walmart and still beat 99% of the people out there that play golf. Yet we live in this world that's out there promoting clubs and promoting hacks instead of swings. How many times have you seen these promotions? Now, I'm not saying they won't work. Again, go to the TikTok example. Tactics sometimes work. But what is more important, that we become efficient in our actions rather than trying to hack the system. The easiest way for you to determine whether it's efficient or a hack is to ask yourself, is it repeatable? If we remove the hack, is this action still repeatable? Are these results repeatable? So I think like here's an example of video communication versus written communication. We live in this age now where we can have these kind of conversations and kind of dialogues over a video communication. It's much more efficient for me to communicate this way versus a written communication. So what does this mean for you? I think it's as simple as the 80-20 rule. 80% of our achievements come from 20% of our activities. So maybe instead of putting that dollar into a savings account, you put it into a more efficient, tax efficient vehicle. Maybe instead of evaluating one real estate deal a day, it's evaluating one multifamily Class C value add deal a day. Maybe instead of networking with people, you get specific on networking with one person in the real estate industry that is a broker that does business in the Southeast every day. You have to make your process and your actions more efficient rather than looking for the tactic. So many of us are waiting for the perfect plan, and you don't know what will work and what won't work until you get going in that consistency phase. And then once you get going, we can take an audit and say, what are our most efficient actions? All right, I'm saving the best for last. It's compounding. At this point, we're clear on our goals. We're taking small, consistent actions towards achieving those goals. We spent some time evaluating how we become more efficient in those goals. Now we have to let time take hold and allow compounding to go into effect. This is the only slide I have on the entire time that's only words, and it's for a reason. Because I think you got to know the formula for compounding. And the formula for compounding is compounding equals time multiplied by volume. And when we think about compounding, we typically only think about the time aspect of it, but there's also the volume aspect of it as well. You have to have some sort of volume in the actions you're doing, whether it's money, practicing your swing, reading 5 pages a day, but equally you have to allow time to take its control, take over. You can increase volume and hack it, but you can't hack time. The best way to hack time is to start today with consistent actions that become more efficient over time and then compound both. So keeping with the pictures, I'll use Warren Buffett as an example. Warren Buffett, from the age of 14, was very consistent in his research to find undervalued companies that he can invest in. Over time, what made him the wealthiest person in the world was finding those companies and the consistency of reading the Moody's manual every day to look for those. Had he given up at 35, we would never know who Warren Buffett was. Had he stopped investing when he was 50, he would have been good, but not great. Compounding is time multiplied by volume of those consistent actions. So what does this mean for you? Every avalanche starts with a single snowflake, and that builds up over time, right? One snowflake on top of another snowflake on top of another. It's often said that no single snowflake feels like it's responsible for the avalanche. However, each snowflake adds up accumulation and keeps adding until it does reach a breaking point and the snowball starts to travel downhill. And before you know it, one single snowflake, one small, tiny snowflake actually causes one of the most deadly forces in the world. In this case, you are responsible for where you decide to place that snowflake. So I want you to imagine you're at the top of this mountain and you've got clear goals on we want to be at the bottom of the mountain. You've gathered a bunch of snowflakes through consistent actions into a little snowball. And now you just take the action of pushing the snowball downhill and allowing compounding to take its course. All right, so no presentation would be complete without having some sort of call to action. There are two calls to action from this presentation that I would say. We're at Thursday afternoon. I want each of you to please pay yourself. Spend 30 minutes over the weekend with a pen and a piece of paper and nothing else. No cell phone, no spouse, no dog, no kids, no laptop, and just get super clear on what your goals are in your life. Ask yourself what you would do with $10 million if it showed up in a bank account. What do you value? What causes do you believe in that you can have an impact in? And ultimately, I like to ask this question. If you're on your deathbed, how will you define success? If you're on your deathbed, how will you define success? And then the second thing is I want each of you to just start one 5-minute task every day that you're going to dedicate to yourself. That could be walking around the block because you want to be healthier. That could be journaling because you want to get clear and more organized in your life. That could be planning your day. That could be reading 5 pages a day. It could be as small as moving a single dollar from your checking account into your savings account. The point there is that you start small and get going and then get good. That's it. That's my piece. That's all I got. I'll stop sharing the screen now and you guys can just see my ugly mug.
Great presentation, Matt. So many thoughts and ideas running through my head there as you're making your way through the slides. This is we are now officially entering the Q&A portion of the presentation. So guys, I see we had one question come through here already. Feel free to populate that Q&A box. I was messaging back and forth with Austin, and I know even Austin has some questions for you here too, Matt. Real quick though, I just want to say I really like the piece on consistency. I think as someone who's doing has a podcast and doing these webinars, it's really amazing to see how combined with the compounding, they're talking about how everything just grows when you decide to show up. And of course, like the Kobe and AI reference you put in there too.
You know where I got the consistency from, and this is all kind of accumulating into the Ironman stuff, is really the Ironman stuff. I mean, it's 140.6 miles. I like to say that LeBron James, 6'7", 250 pounds of solid muscle, can jump out of the gym. I mean, that dude was bound to be an athlete somehow, right? But in Ironman, no one's born to do that. Like we can barely walk when we are 2 years old, right? You have to just put in the consistent effort over time. And one of the things I love about that sport is when I show up and somebody beats me on that day, because I'm not the best at it, but when somebody beats me at that day, they just put in more time. They just put in more consistent effort than I did. It's not because they are just naturally gifted. So that's where that kind of came from.
I love it. All right, so here we go. Q&A time. I do want to put on everyone's radar as well as we make our way through here. If we, for whatever reason, don't get through all the questions, we are going to have a brief breakout session with Matt, so you get to connect with him directly. You just want to float that out there now. But for the time being, Austin, what do we got for Mr. Fore?
Yeah, I think the common question, amazing presentation, by the way. The common question would be, let's say somebody's in a job they don't like. They've kind of been stuck in this cycle pattern over and over again where they're not ultimately happy with where they're headed. What are the steps necessary to take to even get the ball rolling in a new direction? There's a lot of great pillars there, but ultimately, what do you think is a great spark to start moving in a new direction?
I've had this conversation dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I would say there's two things I really look at when I have this conversation. First of all, start at the end of your career. Where are you? What are you doing? And then second of all, I would bring it back down to the now and say, there are skills that you're getting from your job today that you don't even recognize, right? I get told that sometimes I'm a better presenter than I realize, but it's because I've been doing it for 12 years, right? Like this isn't difficult for me because I've been doing it for 12 years where it might be difficult for other people. It was not difficult for me to reach out to Adam because if he said no, well, then that's what I do for 12 years, right? So I would say if you're ever in that phase where you don't enjoy your job, don't quit, right? Take an evaluation of what do you like from that job and how do you do more of it? What are the skills you're learning from those jobs and how do you apply it? And then I like to start with a simple exercise of yes, maybe, hell no. And I think there's somebody on the phone that is, or in this presentation, that I've been through this exercise before. And what that is yes, these are the things I want from a job. For me, I don't want to work on the weekends. I just don't, right? I got other things that I'm interested in. I don't want to work on the weekends. For me, maybe I've never been in a non-sales role. So I don't know. Would I like that? Maybe. Would I not like it? I don't know, right? Hell no. I don't want to be in a low margin business. And what I mean by a low margin business is if you're out there in a 1% less margin business, the only way to get through difficult times is to cut expenses, which means that that's typically headcount in today's society. So I would start with, where do you want to be at the end of your career? And what does that look like? And start bridging there. What are the skills you're getting from today? And what do you like from your job? And how do you apply those skills in that area where you like today? And the last is go through this exercise. Yes, these are the qualities I want from a job. Maybe I've never been in this kind of job, so maybe this would be interesting. Hell no, I don't even want anything that has to do with this.
And to follow up on that, one of the things I noticed in my own career when I was stuck in hospitality for too long is I didn't have an outlet outside of my job. So it felt like a tunnel that I was going down on train tracks with no light. It wasn't until I started investing in real estate on the site, 80-20 rule, that I really became had that extra something on the side that kind of sparked my interest, that made my job feel like it wasn't such monotony.
100%. And this is why I like this forum, right? Is because what do I love doing? I love teaching people, I love empowering people, and I love presenting to people about those things. And so to your point is, if there's some kind of creative outlet you can have in that job, go pursue that so you get that passion and that energy from where you are in maybe not such a great situation.
For sure. And we have a question here. I hope you know this guy. From Tom Williams. He says, do you mind when people steal your ideas within your presentation and then use them without ever giving you credit, asking for a friend?
I'm trying to think of what I stole from him. Tom Williams is one of the best sales people I know. And I like to steal Tom's ideas all the time. But honestly, that's what sales is, right? I mean, you're involved in a lot of these conversations and you hear how people pitch things. And then you're like, yeah, I like that. I think I can deal with that. No, that's not my personality at all. So yeah, I mean, Tom, steal whatever I got. I've taken my fair share from you.
Another question from the attendees is, Matt, what do you think is the most powerful pillar?
All of them, but I would say clarity. And I found a white hair in my beard this week, so I'm starting to get old and wise. And why I say that is because options aren't limited anymore. In the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 80s, 90s, before the real takeoff of the internet, options were kind of limited. You were limited to what was around you, what your special skill set was, and all that sort of thing. Options aren't limited anymore. It's unlimited, the knowledge you can go acquire and the things that you can go do these days. The downside of that is a lot of us, myself included, get stuck in this squirrel syndrome. You're chasing the shiny object. You're chasing the rabbit down the rabbit hole. So getting super, super clear on what's important to you and where you want to go, that's the most important thing. None of that other stuff matters until you get clear on what's important to you and where you want to go. So I would say clarity.
Well, yeah, it's the first one. So there you go. And yeah, we got about 5 more minutes here for a Q&A. So again, don't be shy. Go ahead and punch them in there. For me to you, Matt, again, I know you're working on the podcast now. How are you seeing the 4 pillars, come to life as you build out this platform? Because you're going to have a new reach and audience to your world here very soon. How are you foundationally preparing for that?
So that's a really good question. I'm smiling because clarity was something that took me a long time to get with the podcast, right? Because I have a lot of different interests in terms of leadership, Ironman training, investing. I mean, I like all things finance, right? So I can get caught in a number of different things, and I did for years, right? On those on starting a little drop shipping business, or starting an affiliate website, or investing in this, that, or the other. So the clarity phase was really, really important to me. How it's impacted me, it really is the consistency. Like every day I log in and just try to find two Adams and Austins of the world that I can connect with, knowing that I might go 0 for 2 on that. I might reach out to both of those people and they never reach back out to me, knowing that I could touch base with 2 of those people and it be terrible. And I wish I would have never done it before. Or knowing I could have a home run out of the park and connect with 2 great people like yourselves. And it lead me to so many other doors opening. So I hope that answers your question, but it's really shown me as I've kind of gone through this, how important clarity is, how important consistency is. And I don't have an answer for the efficiency yet, because I'm just trying to get going, right? What you saw today is version 1, and version 1 is better than version none. It's not going to be what I present 5 years from now, 2 years from now, the next time I present this. There's already things in here that I'm like, wouldn't have done that, right? So version 1 is better than version none. So I don't have an answer for the back half of the 4 pillars, just the front half.
So we have a question from Jamie. What book motivates you the most?
See that? Nope, you can't. The last lecture.
Say it one more time.
The last lecture. So my mom gave me this book when I graduated college. And I'll give you the gist of it. The last lecture was written by a gentleman named Randy Posh. And it's customary in academia, when you graduate, you give your last lecture. Here's what I learned. Funny joke. Remember that time Jamie ate an Oreo cookie instead of a Reese's Pieces? Ha ha ha. Here's some of the lessons I've learned. Randy Posh gives his last lecture. Well, what you don't know about Randy Posh is he's 37 and he just got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which in males is like 97% terminal. He's gonna die, right? And his whole lecture is about, don't feel sorry for me. Like, I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve in life. Did I become an NFL player? No, but here's what I learned from it. I got to go to space. I got to do all these cool things and all that kind of stuff. And it just takes you back to a humbling moment of, here's a man that's 37 at the prime of his career, beautiful wife, a baby, a young kid in his family, and gets diagnosed with this terminal illness and turns it into one of those positive stories I've ever heard. So I would definitely recommend the book. It's my most gifted book. I have given away hundreds of that book, but he also has a YouTube lecture of the actual last lecture that he gives at Carnegie Mellon. And I'm not going to spoil his ending, but he does have a pretty interesting twist on his last lecture at the end of it. So the last lecture is probably the #1 book.
Fantastic. All right. Well, here we go. And I'm going to throw you in the hot seat here, Austin, but I know you love the hot seat. You love shooting from the hip. And this is why we love having Austin here as a co-host, guys. We're going to close it out with one final question. Mr. Linney, what do you have for Matt?
You know, you don't know this about me, Matt, but a fellow half Ironman guy. So
got the competition in the house.
So I signed up for 3 last year. Never done any one.
Yeah. Okay.
They all got canceled.
Yeah.
I ran my half Ironman by myself.
Good.
I couldn't swim because all the pools were closed, but I did the extra miles riding and biking. And I was listening to an interview with Chad Wright and Andy Frisella. Chad Wright does ultra marathons, 265 miles in one day, all that kind of stuff. And Andy looked it up and he said, man, must be hard. Bud's training, Navy SEALs, all that running. He goes, not really. He goes, because it was just one foot in front of the other. And so I know, like you and I, through my training, that the saying is you versus you. That's the only training that I know about. So when I'm staring at the guy in the mirror. So when you're having those tough days and you don't want to do it and you have all this stuff on your plate, what do you tell yourself that you can share with everybody else? that would give them some motivation to go on about their day in those tough times?
So I got a couple things I'd say to this. First, whenever you do your first one, tell me where it is, when it is, and I'd love to be there. And I'd love to go.
I actually have been told by my chiropractor I cannot run anymore. So, but if you want to go cycle 100 miles, hey, wait for it. So here's your choices: in New Zealand or Tuscany.
Yes.
Okay. See, I knew it. Yes, all the above.
There's a race down there in Big Bend in Texas. It's 400 miles in the Big Bend National Park. We'll have to nerd out about that. So there's a couple things I would say. What do I tell myself? There's two things I would tell myself, but I'm going to preface it with this. When I was going into my first Ironman, my coach told me that the hard work has already been done. The race itself, when I tell people 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, 26.2 mile run, 140.6 miles, they're like, you do that all in a day, all in a single race, all in a single event? And the answer is yes. And I always tell them, that is the easiest part about that whole process. You know what's the hard part? The hard part is waking up at 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning, driving an hour out to go ride your bike for 100 some odd miles for 6-7 hours, jumping off the bike, going to run for an hour and a half afterwards, driving an hour back. So now you're 12 hours into your day, sleeping, waking up, going to run 5 hours the next day because you got to put in a run right after that. And the consistency of doing the grind is what makes that process hard. And that's why I say that you have to have something that you do consistently every day. And the times when you need to do it the most is when the times when you don't think you need to do it. Because what you're doing is you're building grit in that muscle and that callus around that habit that makes it easier. So two things I would say on what do I tell myself. When I coached football right out of high school. And one of the favorite things I loved about our head coach is he said, do you know why they make the football the way they do? Such a weird shape, right? It's because when you drop it, you never know where it's going to go. And that's how this game's going to be. I can't control the fans, can't control the refs. I can't control the plays. I can't control anything. There's going to be times where we catch breaks and there's going to be times where we don't catch breaks. The team that stays the most even through this process of 60 minutes is going to win the game. And that's it, right? So I would tell, and my coach told me that when I was going to my first Ironman, same thing. You're going to feel like crap during this, and you're going to feel awesome during this. When you feel awesome, check yourself and bring yourself back down a little bit. And when you feel like crap, just know that there's going to be a time where you get some Coke, you get some water, you get caffeine, and you're going to feel a little bit better. So it's about that, like staying consistent throughout the whole time. The second thing I will say, and it's an homage to Pat Summitt, and I heard this the other day, Pat Summitt really pioneered women's sports in America, I believe. She's one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, also a UT alumni, and we'll have to sing some Rocky Top for Adam so he knows what we're talking about here. She was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and it was pretty quick. I mean, like a year and a half when she was an active coach, diagnosed to death. And I was listening to an interview one time from one of her players, and she said that, you know, what do you do, Pat? How do you get through this? How do you do? And she said, left foot, right foot, repeat. Left foot, right foot, repeat. And I think that's it, right? 2020 taught us a lot about, it was about getting through, not necessarily accelerating or doing all these things. And that's where I go into the consistency phase. It's about finding a 5-minute task because it's just left foot, right foot, repeat. Hope that answers the question. I get long-winded, so apologize about that.
All good. That's why we're all podcasters, right? So actually, I am going to throw you this one here. We'll see if we can do a 30-second answer because, again, we're getting ready to close it down. For the sake of the replay, again, for those of you here with us live, we're going to have a little bit of fun after we hit the end record button. But here we go, Matt. Give us your expedited answer. What accomplishment are you most proud of thus far, and what about are you most excited for in the future?
Most proud accomplishment, I qualified for the World Championship in Ironman in Zellamsee, Austria. It was the day after my birthday, and it was the second year I did Ironman. And the reason why is because I remember calling my mom and telling her when they announced where it was going to be that I was going to take the family. I was going to qualify. I was going to take the family. It was one of my big boy things that I was going to get to take the family on a vacation. We would travel all over the world together. She's my little traveling buddy. When I saw it, I got there. And if any of you ever see my Facebook picture, there's a picture of me hugging her as I'm going down the finishing chute. It was taken by my brother. So it's just, I mean, her face on that says a million words. So thing I'm most proud of is that I was able to qualify and take the family. And was it excited or the thing what was the last one?
Really, let me pull it back up here real quick. What are you most excited about in your future? I know it's a tough one to answer on the spot, right?
I think it's to look back at the person I've become more than anything. I'm a guy that's about continual growth, and nothing's ever good enough. It might be good enough in the moment, but it's never good enough for me long term. And I'm scared and excited to see where that'll take me in my life 20 years from now. So It's like Matthew McConaughey said, he gets asked the question, who's your hero? And he says, me 10 years from now. It's kind of one of those things.
Yeah. Love it. All right, Matt. Well, a lot of valuable information shared here today. I'm sure we're going to have some people who want to follow up and get in touch with you. So what is the, say, single one best way for anyone tuned in to follow up and get in touch with you?
Find me on LinkedIn. That's probably where I'm most active. And I see that it's in the chat here, but if you want to, it's Matt Fore. You'll see that I work for one of the big tech companies. It actually shows my profile location in Tampa because I spent some of my time there. That's the best way. And again, as I started this, I love talking to people about where they are, where they want to go, and helping them with that process. I don't have a coaching service. I don't have an affiliate site. I'm not trying to sell anything. I just genuinely enjoy that part of it. So feel free to reach out to me. I would love to connect and chat more.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for investing your most valuable resource with us here today, your time at this next level webinar. The presentation, Fore's 4 Pillars for a Successful Life. Again, Matt is the host of Ice Cream with Investors. Quick plug. I think, that'll be hitting the airwaves soon, as you mentioned, Matt. So looking forward to it. If you found value in today's message and you're here with us on the replay, again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe there. It really helps us bring on future high-performing guests just like Matt. And remember, you can go visit Matt at his LinkedIn profile, preferably. Before we get to Matt, Austin, any closing words?
No, I mean, the guy's a natural. Great presentation, crushed it. Super excited and honored to be here, and just congrats, man.
Dairy Queen Blizzard's on the way, Austin. Appreciate the kind words.
I'm good, bro. I'm hunting down some 6-packs. No, thank you. And I'm still on 75 hard, so no.
Matt, any closing remarks on your end?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the time. I look forward to hearing from anybody out there that saw value in this and that I can be a part of their life and their journey.
Absolutely. And one more big thank you to our whole team, especially Aaron Eiler. So I'm sure you guys have seen Aaron's name popping up there in the chat box. He's our next level intern and much more than that. Really bright future for that guy. So go ahead and you can probably do a little LinkedIn search on Aaron. He's got big things in store. Another big thank you to our sponsor, Liberty Real Estate Fund, which is the world's first single tenant net lease security token. For more information on Liberty Fund, you can visit libertyfund.io. That's libertyfund.io. And of course, one more huge thank you to our audience. You guys rock. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Adam Carswell. Shout out to our co-host, Austin Linney, and Matt Fore was your rock star of the day. Go connect with him. And guys, remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.